development partners and research institutions can effectively use the results of the biennial review to inform planning, budgeting, and implementation and accountability process. Today, we have three presentations. The first presentation will be given by Ms. Agnes Obwa-Agwa, who is the CAADP advisor at the Department of Rural Economy and Agriculture at the AUC, who will present the key findings of the 2025 CAADP Biennial Review. The second presentation will be given by Wondwosen Tefera, who is a Senior Associate Scientist at Academia 2063. And he will tell us about addressing data deficiency, specifically for the theme on poverty reduction commitment. And then the third presentation will be given by Dr. Johannes Zesma, who is the interim professor at the Kiel University in Germany, on enhancing effectiveness and impacts of public agricultural expenditure under CAADP. So thereafter, we will have a moderated panel, and then, of course, we will have Q&A from the participants and the closing session. So we are happy that you are here, and we look forward to engage discussion from the participants. May I now kindly invite Agnes to actually make her presentation in the next 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Paul Kuthiga. I'm honored to make this presentation on behalf of the teams. I am presenting the 5th biennial report findings. So, yeah, about CAADP. We all know that it is a policy framework for agriculture and agriculture-led development since 2003, and it is now also a flagship program of the African Union. It was mandated in 2014 at the start of the Malabo Declaration and is under Commitment 7 of the 7 Malabo commitments. The biennial review report has tracked progress made by the African Union member states since over the Malabo Declaration targets, and every report has been guided by a theme, and the preparation of this report takes about 1.5 years before it is finally submitted to the heads of state and government for approval. Also, we are aware that the Malabo Declaration has 7 commitments, and I won't list them, but we will look at them step by step in the coming slides. So these are the results of the 5 biennial review reports. The blue indicates countries that have presented data and provided a report in that year, and the gray represents those that have not. And this is a summary of the findings from the 5 BR reports. So our 5th biennial report is the last in the Malabo era. And the green here represents countries that have been on track towards achieving those targets. And the red or maroon, depending on how your eyes see it, indicate countries that have not been able to achieve those targets. Blue indicates countries that have at least achieved the 50% mark. So this is the scorecard expanded for the 5th biennial review. And you say that you see in this slide that there's no member state that was able to achieve the targets of the Malabo in the 10 years. But a good number of them, as you can see, have at least achieved more than 50% towards the targets. This is a summary of the continental performance for the biennial review. the continent as a whole achieved 5.25 as an average score out of 10, and no member state achieved the targets, but a good number, 29 member states, are progressing well. That means they at least achieved 50% or more of what I would call the pass mark. So for commitment 1, which is about recommitment to the CAADP principles, we see that only 38 member states were able to achieve more than the halfway mark, and only 1 member state achieved a score of 10. For the commitment 2, which benchmark is 9.5, 17 member states are progressing well to achieve that score. So for commitment 3, which is ending hunger, we have the benchmark being 9.24, but only 9 member states were able to achieve at least the halfway mark. And for commitment 4, which is halving poverty through agriculture by 2025, we see only 1 member state was able to achieve that score, that benchmark, that pass mark score, and 17 achieved more than 50%. For commitment 5, we have, which is about boosting intra-African trade, we see only 6 member states were able to at least achieve 50% and above. While in commitment 6, which was about resilience to climate variability, we have 28 member states progressing well. And for the last commitment, where we have 33 member states progressing well, and we had 6 member states who were able to achieve this benchmark, a score of 9.4 and above. In this slide, I will focus mainly in this corner here. We see that in the first biennial review, a number of member states had scores between 4 and 6, but we see a slight progression moving upwards to the 5th biennial review, where most of the member states had a score of 5 to even 8. So this is to indicate that the member states, over the 10 years of the Malabo Declaration, there was a great progress and improvement in performance. So some food for thought from these results. The performance of the agriculture sector is increasing, as we have seen, but member states are not achieving the Malabo targets. So we have questions there. And even though the continent has significantly a low baseline compared to the global average, agricultural production is still increasing, as we saw, even though productivity may not be increasing as much. Hunger is still prevalent. So our question for us and how to move from accountability to action is, how do we increase productivity to ensure sufficient food for all, and not just sufficient food, but even nutritive food? We also see that the best performance was in commitment 1, that is the Malabo targets were achieved towards having good policies in place and good frameworks in place. But how do we translate that into effective and efficient implementation? So the call to action from the 5th biennial review report findings was that we really need to improve coordination and communication across member states. We need to mobilize development partners to align and reduce fragmentation. And we need to keep our farmers at the center of implementation. We need to ensure that the civil society, the women and youth are all at the center of implementation, accountability, and innovation if we are to see transformation of the sector. Now, the fifth biennial review report, this was an overall summary performance. We had Morocco, then Rwanda and Egypt in that order, performing as the best 3 countries. And then we usually have to also acknowledge a country that has done very much better than the previous biennial review. So in this case, it was Somalia, who had 105% improvement over how they performed in the 4th biennial review. And we also specially mentioned the regional performance, and in this case, it was Southern Africa. We looked at the performance over the 5 years, and we noted that these 7 countries listed here had a continuous improvement from the 1st biennial review up to the 5th biennial review. So their best performance was in the 5th biennial review. While this other set of 17 countries below here, they had an average score of 5 and above out of 10 for all the 5 biennial review cycles. So that means they also reported on all the biennial review cycles and at least are progressing well. So that is the presentation of the 5th biennial review report. These are the cover pages of the 5 biennial review reports. I thank you so much for listening, and back to you, Paul. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Agnes, for that insightful presentation. You have highlighted the role of CAADP as a continental mutual accountability forum and tool that pulls countries together to assess performance. You have shown us the performance over the years since the first biennial review to the most recent one. Of course, the performance across countries is different across the commitment areas, but generally that the countries have been making good progress over the years, and that there is an opportunity to build on that momentum going into Kampala to ensure that then the goals that have been set for achievement by 2035 are achieved. So thank you very much. I know that the participants have questions, as already indicated. Kindly put your questions in the chat. We'll also have an opportunity to take a few questions from the participants later on. So thank you once again, Agnes, for that presentation. May I now invite the second presenter, Wandwo Sentefera, who will be presenting on addressing data deficiency in the Caribbean, particularly for commitment area number 4 on poverty reduction, because one of the challenges that has been observed is data issues, data quality, and he will take us through that. So welcome, Wandwo.
Thank you, Paul. Can you hear me? Is my slide visible?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Wandwo Sentefera from Academia 2063, and the topic of my presentation is addressing data deficiency in CAADP's poverty reduction commitment. And this is not moving from my side. Is it moving from your side? Sorry.
It has moved now.
All right, thank you. So this work that I'm going to present has been published as Kampala Policy Brief Series number 9, and it was co-authored by Dr. John Olubingo of FPRI and myself. And very briefly, my outline is, first I will talk about, I'll give an introductory remark and then talk about data reporting performance, data quality issues, and then I'll summarize and provide some implications or recommendations for Kampala. Well, as we know, commitment 4 of the Malabo Declaration has it aims to reduce poverty by half by 2025. And likewise, the Kampala Declaration has a target of reducing poverty by half by 2035. Therefore, the Malabo BR performance can provide valuable lessons for monitoring poverty reduction targets under the Kampala CAADP period. As we know, data serves not only as a reporting tool, rather it also serves as a learning tool. And for effective and efficient learning, it's imperative to have high quality data. High quality data should be there and should be accessible, because such data are important for tracking progress, identifying gaps, and informing decision makings. Therefore, based on the findings from the various biennial review results, this presentation aims to identify key lessons for monitoring poverty reduction targets under the Kampala Declaration, and it also aims to present practical recommendations for strengthening the BR system. So when we look at data reporting performance, the finding shows the presence of significant challenge at continental, regional, and country level. For example, this is for commitment 4 based on FOSBR result. At continental level, approximately 40% of the required data was missing. And when we look at subgroupings, like by geographic regions, we observe that Central Africa faced the highest challenge with more than 60% data missing rate. And the lowest was for Western Africa at 29%. But even this 29% is very high to adequately report on the commitment. From a regional economic community point of view, ECAS had the weakest performance with more than 50% data missing rate, while Eastern Africa community performed better with close to 15% data missing rate. In general, the result shows the presence of large regional disparities, which also shows the presence of uneven institutional and statistical capacity. So such disparity also presents an opportunity for peer learning to help low-performing regions from the better ones. At country level, still data completeness remains to be a significant challenge for most countries. During the first biennial review for commitment 4, 19 countries, which is about 40% of the reporting countries, they failed to report more than half of the required data. In the diagram, these are the countries represented by the yellow and orange color. So about 40% or a significant portion of the reporting countries were not able to provide adequately for the commitment. And when we look, because commitment 4 is composed of 7 indicators, and when we see the performance in data reporting by indicator, we observe that data deficiency were not common across the indicators. Rather, it's different across them. And what we noted is for indicators that require multiple parameters, and especially commodity-specific parameters, they faced greater reporting challenges, while the others that have relatively lower parameter requirements, the data missing rate was small. So data missing was not common or was not uniform across the various indicators. The other interesting finding is about the relationship of this data missing rate and the implementation of Malabo compliant second generation national agricultural investment plans. And what we have observed is more than 2/3 of the countries that failed to provide at least 50% of the data for one or more of commitment 4 indicators were the countries that have formulated and were implementing Malabo compliant national agricultural investment plan. In the table, these are the countries represented by light and dark green, and the value in bracket shows the number of commitment 4 indicators with at least 50% missing rate. Some have only 1 indicator, others have 5 out of the 7 indicators with more than 50% missing rate. As we know, the NIPE is the implementation framework of the CAADP. And therefore, we can see how challenging it is to assess the implementation of the NIPE with such data missing rates. That's why insufficient data, we say insufficient data undermines tracking of poverty reduction commitments in the NIPE. But the challenge is not only data reporting. Data may be reported, but that reported data may not have quality. So even when data is available, its quality may be compromised. And here, this box plot result shows the presence of data quality issues in the form of outliers across the second, the third, and the fourth BR for the different indicators for the 6 indicators of commitment 4. The outliers are like, for example, countries may report more than 30% increase in agricultural value-added growth within a year, or a 40% reduction in poverty account ratio within a year, or a significant reduction in farm gate price gap, or a significant improvement or a significant portion of youth engaged in new job opportunities, which is very much unlikely. So such outliers have the potential to hide the true picture of agri-food transformation efforts across the continents, and therefore needs to be addressed. The other interesting finding we observed is the presence of strong inverse relationship between missing data and BR performance scores. The first diagram, for example, which is a scatter plot of the data missing rate and the score for the commitment for the reporting countries, shows that the countries that faced significant data missing are the countries that that have the very low score. For example, the bar chart, which shows the association of data reporting and data missing by geographic regions, shows that, for example, for Western Africa, data missing rate is 29%, but the score is the highest among the others, which is 3.9. But this score continues to decline as data reporting rate declines, and it reached 0.9 for Central Africa, whose data missing rate was 66%. But here it's important to note that increased reporting alone does not guarantee better BR performance, because BR scores are an outcome of the policies, programmatic decisions, and investment decisions countries make. But even those decisions will be overlooked if data is not reported. So we say here, better reporting has a potential to improve visibility of policy achievements. So in summary, what the finding says or identifies is data gaps weaken effective monitoring, evaluation, and learning of CAADP implementation. We have seen that data reporting and data quality concerns remain a major challenge in the last 5 biennial review periods, and this has to be addressed. And at the same time, data gap limits the visibility of policy achievements. So the implication for Kampala is that strengthening national statistical system is as critical as strengthening policies and investments to achieve Kampala targets. Because a strong national data ecosystem is a prerequisite for ensuring the availability of quality data. And the availability of such data allows policymakers to identify areas where progress is lagging, and this will help them implement corrective measures before targets are reached. Moreover, to properly utilize the available data during the CAADP BR process, it's important to establish and operationalize commitment-specific data clusters. And also, those data clusters or data providers should be capacitated through targeted and regular training, and they should receive continuous technical backstopping support through the BR process. And we have observed such support us to bring a result during our intervention in some countries on its funded project. But at the same time, to address these data missing and outlier issues, it's important to explore innovative solutions. It may include AI-based prediction methods so that these missing rates and outliers can be addressed at country level or during regional validation level, or if not, during the continental data validation period. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Wandwosen, for ably highlighting the findings of the Kampala CAADP policy brief number 9 on data quality issues. You have raised quite important issues using the commitment area number 4, but it is representative of all other areas where data issues, data gaps are quite prevalent. Data quality issues are also there. And you have provided some insights on how going forward into the Kampala implementation era, those could be corrected. Thank you very much. Without good data, you can never make good decision. And even with good data, if it's not well reported, even the good things that are happening within the country cannot be seen. That, I think, is a clarion call for the continent to continue to strengthen the data systems, but also the reporting system as well. As you say, the CAADP data is quite broad, covers many sectors of the economy, and how to gather it, collect it, curate it, validate it for reporting is also important. And the innovative idea of data clusters is one of the ways to do that. So thank you very much for that. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming to the third and the final presentation on the Kampala policy brief number 10 that is co-authored between Johannes Zisma and Christian Henning. It's on enhancing effectiveness and impacts of public agricultural expenditure under CAADP. So I welcome Johannes to take us through it. Well,
thank you very much, Paul. And as you said, this will be done together with Christian Henning, and he will take us from the start, and then I will continue.
Yes, so this is a joint work. Welcome, everybody. I'm Christian Henning, Chief Scientist at Academia, and I will give the introduction, and then I will hand over to Johannes. This is Kampala brief number 10, and there is a larger research behind it, which we did together in a larger team within Academia, and including Johannes, who is with whom I work over 15 years, who is a computer scientist and agriculture economist. So we heard already from Wandwosen, data is important, but and particular BR data also, there are still some problems, and which needs to be improved. Definitely, we are using this data, and BR data has a very specific quality, which is not so easily found elsewhere. And just to give you a flavor, and then we will show some first results, it is now about using data to make better decisions and to understand how we do this and what is the rule of the BR data particular. I start here with the first slide. So it is about CAADP policy choices, and the main intervention logic behind these choices is, of course, that we have a set of different policies like public investments in different priority areas and policy programs, and the allocation is to have an impact on the policy goal development like poverty reduction and undernourishment, but also per capita capita income. And these different developments are evaluated by a society. For some, undernourishment might be a little bit more important than poverty reduction. Of course, everything is important, but if we have to make a choice, because there are trade-offs, we have to have a relative evaluation of these different, and the total would be the society welfare. Basically, this is all in the head of the political decision makers, but what they also need to know to make this decision is one side their preferences. They have to evaluate these different goal achievement, but even more important, they have to understand how different policies, like the different Kampala policy priorities and programs, impact on these development. Now, this is a very complex task, and politicians normally just form simple heuristics, ideas, how these policies might impact, but this can be improved, and this is what we do by quantitative modeling. But to do this quantitative modeling, no worries, I will not go into the modeling, just explaining the rule. We definitely need, for all of the models, they can only be as good as the data with when these models are calibrated, estimated. And here we did the combination of the very important and specific BR data, but we combine this in a specific Bayesian and meta modeling techniques with scientific knowledge from scientific models, and also expert knowledge from politicians. Putting this all together, we have this nice framework. With the framework, we can use specific interfaces, policy tools, which basically solve exactly the problem of policy choices, to understand which policies have which impact on which goals and how important are these different goals. And then one can move backward and find the policy design for a particular country which best serves society's interest. And now in the following up, Johannes will show some of these results. Partly we just use the BR data to give a structural overview. Partly we will also use the results we received with the input of the BR data on the different policy impacts. And mainly it is about promoting growth, but then the question is in which sectors we want to promote growth, and how can we best promote growth in the different sectors. So in all of this, if we go to the next slide, is, and this was also already said by Wondwarsen, we need to generate an interactive, dynamic policy learning process. So basically, from the data and the knowledge, we come to the tools, to the final decisions. But then, and this is again what we are doing with the BR data, we have to track what is the final policy impact, what is the final policy outcome. And by tracking this, we have the possibility to learn, to better understand how specific policies work actually in different countries. With this having said, I hand over to Johannes, who now will give you some ideas and examples of what we did with the BR data. Johannes, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christian. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. Yes. So what we do, so with all this modeling, we can do some little bit of policy analysis, as Christian said. And the first step is to basically look at what happens if I would spend more money on policy programs, and what would happen with different goal achievements. And here we did it with elasticities that can be easily understood as I would spend 1% more money, how much more goal achievement would I get? And what we can see here is that the impact is very different across the different regions. For example, for stunting, we see relatively high impacts across all regions. But for example, GDP per capita in green, there's a difference between the different regions, and the impact is really different across the achievement is really asymmetric across regions. So one first point is basically that it matters where you are. And in the next step, we will go a little bit into more detail. And we will look at 4 countries where we did a deeper analysis so far. This is Kenya, Rwanda, Sierra Leone, and Togo. And the first thing we want to look at is the question of key sectors, and we will look at it for poverty reduction and what does it mean when we ask, well, what is a key sector? So a sector is key if when it grows or we have technical progress in this sector, then we get a lot of poverty reduction. But this part is basically only one part. You don't get the growth as a gift from God or somewhere else, or just falls from heaven, but you have to generate this growth. So it needs to be basically how much does it cost to generate this growth? And this is what you see here, basically the impact of additional investment on poverty reduction in the different sectors. And we normalized this all relative to the maize sector. And here we see all the agricultural sectors and agribusiness sectors. And again, you see a very diverse picture across the countries. There are a few sectors that don't appear to be key for poverty reduction. For example, sugarcane, tobacco, and cotton and fibers all have a relatively smaller effect on poverty reduction than if they would grow than the maize sector. But for example, in Sierra Leone, we see large effects for most of the other sectors, and there maize does not appear to be a key sector, but maize is a prominent sector or a key sector, for example, in Kenya. So we have, again, country differences. We have differences between the different countries, and it is not enough to just look at if the sector grows. We also need to understand how to generate this growth and how expensive it is. And in this regard, we can also look if we want to generate this growth, with which basically policies we can do this. And this is the next step. And in the first step, we look at the policy priority areas. So again, we ask the question, if we would spend money, in which program should we invest it for poverty reduction? And here we have, for example, market access. This is basically rural infrastructure or agricultural infrastructure. We have natural resource focus programs that focus on land or water improvement. And we have non-agricultural investment, that is general infrastructure in rural and urban areas. And for example, STI is something like research and development. And farm support, there also falls a big part is, for example, subsidies or the new initiatives like e-cooperatives and things like this. And here again, we see that we have differences across the countries. In general, non-agricultural investments are relatively important across all countries. But for example, if you look at natural resources, there we see that they are very important for Kenya, but not so important for the other countries. And for example, farm support is important in Sierra Leone, but not in the other countries. So again, it is really important to look at the specific country. And we can even go a step further beyond the priority areas. We can also look at more specific programs. And again, for all the countries. And here we normalize the effect relative to the urban infrastructure. And here again, we see that it's different across the countries. And we have, for example, in Togo, a bigger focus on the non-agricultural investment programs like rural internet and rural infrastructure, and the farm cooperatives, which are important in all countries. But for example, water investment is not so important, or natural resource investments into water are not so important in Togo, but more important in Kenya, for example, or the market access investments are much more important in Kenya and Rwanda than in the other two countries. So this is basically a more detailed view on how to spend money to generate growth for poverty reduction. And based on this, we can also look what effect would this have. And what we see from the past or from the history is that the growth rates of the different goals, for example, for poverty and for undernourishment and so on, have been really slow. And for example, if we want to achieve the policy goal of halving poverty in the next 10 years, we would need average growth rates of 5% per year. And what we see is that no region achieved this. And we have a few countries here. We have examples of Senegal, Ghana, and Uganda. For example, Ghana and Senegal are around 3%, but and the lower middle incomes and upper middle incomes countries or regions are even much further away from the 5% that would be needed to achieve the goal of halving poverty. And even for the undernourishment goal, we see that there has been, it's even got worse in some regions or countries. And again, here, Senegal is close to halving it, but it's even there, it is away or far away from the achievement or the target achievement. So what would policy improvement bring? Or how much better would we get if we would spend the policy or the money better on, or would do the investment in a better way? And what we see from our modeling is that on across the different goals, we can improve the achievement a lot. And for example, for poverty, we could achieve the compared to the status quo investment. We could improve the achievement level by 50%. So spending the money better would really help, but it will still be really hard to achieve the halving poverty goal. This is a very ambitious goal, but given the progress in the past, it seems somewhat unrealistic to be able to achieve this in the next 10 years on average. I will skip this and go directly to the takeaway messages. Modeling these policy choices and even not modeling or even doing these CAADP policy choices is a really complex task. And what we have seen from the results is that no one size fits all policy setups. So there are no country blueprints. You really need to look at the specific country. And what we also see is that we need, or what we have seen from Van Borsen before, is that we really need good data to better understand this process and to be able to better model this process. So we need good data, and VR data is one key input for this, so that we can empirically specify this complex computational modeling framework, of which we just gave you a glimpse. We are very happy to talk more about this, but given the time, today is not the day. And what we need is that we have an interactive communication between science and political decision makers, so that we have effective policy learning. And this learning is not just that the science tells the political decision makers how to do it. It is also the political decision makers, what Christian basically hinted at, is they also have a lot of knowledge that we want to integrate into the modeling process. And therefore, we need this interactive communication. And one way to do this is this CAADP policy tool that actually facilitates this interactive science-society communication. And with that, thank you very much. And I look forward to the discussion.
So thank you very much, Johannes and Christian, for that very insightful presentation on using a modeling tool, using the BR data to inform public spending in terms of where we are likely to have the most returns and achieve the goals that we desire. So thank you. You have highlighted that no one size fits all, because the response of public spending vary by countries, by region, even by sector and also the policy areas and programs. And therefore, this detailed kind of modeling is important to inform the allocation of the limited public resources. So we look forward to further interaction with the participants in the Q&A session. So thank you very much. That is the 10th Kampala policy brief on enhancing effectiveness and impact of public agriculture expenditure under CAADP. Again, underscoring the value of good data, even to inform decision making. So thank you very much. And thank you for the questions that keep coming in the Q&A tab. Please keep sending your questions there, because we'll have a limited time to respond to questions at the end of the session. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we want to shift gears. We have a rich panel that we want to engage in this panel discussion. So we are very pleased that we are joined by Boaz Blackie K. who is Director of Policy and State Capability at AGRA and has long experience on CAADP matters across the continent. We are also joined by Madam Josephine Love, who is an Assistant Director and the CAADP focal person at the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development in the Republic of Kenya. In the panel as well, we have Dr. Hamadi Diop, who has long experience on these CAADP issues. He was the CAADP Post-Malabo Process Coordinator and is the CEO and the founder of DNS Consulting. We are also very glad that we are joined by Madam Chikondi Chavuta, who is the chairperson of the CAADP Non-State Actor Group. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's a balanced panel. And I would want to pose the first question to you, Dr. Diop. So as we enter the next 10 years of the phase of CAADP implementation, what one structural change do we need on how the BR process is used, and which one would you want to see the most? Over to you.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, everyone. It's an honor and a privilege to be here among you. This question, in my view, is a very important one. Maybe let me reflect. Maybe take maybe 1 minute to reflect just on the BR and on what I have heard so far before I project myself into the future of BR. I think BR was a very, very robust and interesting tool that African Union and the member state and the REX put in place. It has strengthened mutual accountability. It was mandated by member state, as Agnes rightfully highlighted. But one of the challenges I see in the current BR is that country report data get analyzed, we get a shaming naming report, and then things end there. After a while, mostly if you keep on repeating country are off track, they are off track, it even projects a negative image that this is a punitive kind of audit rather than an operational tool. But this is my opinion. But in any case, moving forward, I think one of the area that we will be strengthening with the BR is on the learning component, because BR would have been really, really extremely useful if after, let's say, one cycle, you pointing out where countries are not performing or regions are not performing, and during the next cycle, you see some policy changes to address those gaps. So I think that's what has been missing. That's why I said it looks like a punitive audit document rather than something that trigger policy change. And I think now, having been inside the process and having been also involved in the design of the implementation guidelines and modalities, I can see now a shift in focus into the learning, meaning that once we get the BR, we track basically where you have some gaps. This can trigger change, meaning that country will learn from where the gaps are and try to trigger policy change so that it can influence the process. So I think for me, that's where I can see a big improvement moving forward. The second one where I can see also changes is with the regional economic communities, because at the moment, they're just aggregating data from countries and passing them along. But when you have also some deficit, I mean, there is no resources. The RECs also are not basically doing any meaningful things to basically readjust their policies so that they can be more more impactful. I think to address your question, those are my two takeaways. And for the sake of time, let me stop here. Thank you.
Yes, so thank you very much, Hamadi, for those responses. I think going forward, couldn't agree with you more. We need to make the CAADP more of a learning, platform where countries are taking lessons and do the adjustments so that they improve performance over time. Very well, thank you very much. So now the second question I will be posing to Boaz. So your institution, AGRA, works directly with governments and other value chain actors on agricultural delivery. So in your experience, Boaz, how effectively are countries actually using these BR findings when designing their national investment plans? And if not, where does the disconnect actually occur? Over to you.
Thanks so much, Paul. I really appreciate it. And let me first of all, by the way, start by appreciating the Academia 2063 for maintaining this dialogue. Dialogue, engagement, discussions are very, very critical because human nature requires that people need to listen and be told on a regular basis. Even politicians, even technocrats need to really hear these discussions. So I congratulate you for continuing to really raise these discussions at various levels. So this Kampala series is one of those that I really appreciate and always be happy to be part of. So from the work that AGRA is doing, and I want to draw my insights from what both Agnes and Wondersen were speaking about on the results of the CAADP biannual review. Take a step back. I think when you heard from the biannual review itself and what Agnes said, there is a paradox between the policy performance and the outcomes. Literally, most countries, around 60–70%, are on track to achieve the policy commitments. And when you look at the outcomes, completely less than 20% of the outcomes are achieved. The country is still no country is on track. Poverty is increasing. More than actually 300 million people go to bed without food. So basically, the outcomes on the continent are completely on a different tangent with the kind of policy commitments. That tells you something that informs the nature and the type of our government engagement work at AGRA. And of course, drawing from the African Union's work, because we are designed to support the continental mechanism to deliver the CAADP commitments, as I've already said. So that's really, really critical that we need to understand as a context. There is a very strong challenge. We know that there are headwinds in terms of things that governments cannot control themselves, like climate change. If you go to countries like South Sudan, you'll find conflicts that are the ones that are deterring progress. The State on Food and Nutrition Security report produced by FAO says conflict is one of the major deterrents in terms of progress. But that said, we are now really seeing, and on the score of 1 to 10 to your question, Paul, there are few countries that are heavily reliant on the CAADP biannual review results and outcomes to deliver, to sharpen their national investment plans, to deliver, making sure that they are creating accountability discussions at country level. They are relatively few, to be honest with you, and not just only among the countries that we work with as AGRA, but across the continent, because as you may wish to know, we invest in through our regional economic communities, and we reach countries that we are not directly having a footprint. Just this week, we had a meeting within Gaborone and Gabon. Is it Gabon? Gaborone, on the CAADP biannual review based on the grant. And these guys were discussing on domestication of the CAADP biannual review. And you could really tell from those particular meetings that the countries, each of them, are not using the BR results to push for the delivery. So that raises the concern, Paul and the rest of the colleagues. One is, how do we take this work into the country directly? Because I really want to believe that the African Union, the NEPAD, the Regional Economic Communities experts have done an excellent diagnostic tool. And Hamadi, don't shy away from it being a punitive one. If it doesn't, and it doesn't create the real trigger, then I think it should be really as more punitive, and we need to find solutions. Hamadi, you were in NEPAD before you joined NEPAD. There was this original principle of the Africa peer review mechanism. The CAADP biannual review has created the diagnostic tool. The peer review mechanism is not happening to a level where it creates pressure. I've already said most of the times that a lot of debate and discussion has stayed within us experts, technical level, mid-level leadership, but has not translated into political action. Africa's biggest challenge is where this kind of data informs policy, politics, and delivery. So we need really to take this in the country to link practical policy and political discussions. And I have some few quick solutions on what we are doing and what we are saying. One, we need to begin to really be strong at a country level to link the biannual review indicators with the medium-term expenditure framework. Ministry of Finance must begin to see how it hurts for a country not to be able to deliver. Let's be more practical. Let's move out of agriculture comfort and agriculture, REX, AU, come back within the same comfort, same rooms, bring the discussion to the medium-term expenditure framework, such that budget allocations are targeted to the CAADP biannual review indicators. And you and me know that money is an instrument of not only coordination, but execution. So we need to move to that level. We need to create very stronger country dashboards and create a dialogue that is beyond common rooms where experts discuss. We need to also bring this discussion at cabinet level so that we are empowering and informing ministers responsible, especially now that we're into food systems, beyond just an agriculture ministry. And this is possible. And this actually is a call to action for institutions like the African Union, the NEPAD, because NEPAD now, the relevance of NEPAD has started now, this year. The implementation. I want to congratulate the African Union for leading the design and putting in place of the right policy instruments and instruments of tracking those policy decisions. You know, the Kampala CAADP is the policy direction that the continent has agreed and accompanied by an instrument of tracking and measuring those commitments. Excellent work, beautiful. NEPAD, because we are charged with delivery and execution, this is where the challenge comes in. Now, taking the biannual review into the country becomes the most critical. And for me, and I will end it with this note, like today and tomorrow, 18th and 19th, we are having a series of the CAADP biannual review discussions in country with parliamentarians. There is a meeting happening in Mombasa with the Kenyan parliamentarians around the CAADP biannual review. And I took time with David Adama, Robert Ouma, really to review the conditions for discussions. Initially, it was just generic, like a workshop where people can put their hands up and down. We've turned the debate into an accountability discussion, holding parliamentarians accountable on 5 to 6 policy reforms they are doing to create jobs for young people linked to the commitment. Because the domestication is not just about telling CAADP results where X, Y, and Z, Kenya was not on track, and then you pack your bags and go. We need to create instruments of accountability. And this dialogue is happening today and tomorrow. Secondly, we are saying parliamentarians, we, through the AFSPAN, you know, the Africa Parliamentarians Network, tell us the amount of resources out of the 100 billion that you are going to mobilize to bring to the agri-food system sector because you are parliamentarians. Because that's a part of the things they're supposed to be doing. So we're translating the biannual review into practical actions through stronger advocacies, through engagement, making sure that the AU, the NEPAD have done their part, the countries need to do more. So this dialogue and debates need to be really translated in the country. And that's what we are doing, and in support of the African Union, in support of NEPAD, and based on their mandate that I've been able to give. I'll end it there.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Boaz, for those very good insights on how to really bring the CAADP biennial review from continental level to country level. And I think it links very well with what Hamadi has said. We really have to make it a learning tool. And one way of doing that is really bringing it home and linking it with what is happening at the country level, so that it is not something separate coming from elsewhere, but it is actually part of the in-country policy debate and dialogue. Thank you very much for that. And I think the Kampala CAADP calls for the integration of the national level joint sector review with the CAADP BR. In fact, the base for reporting at continental level for BR should actually be the national level JSR, the policy dialogue, the monitoring that is happening at country level to inform the BR. Thank you very much for that and for those very practical insights. So we are happy to be joined by Madam Josephine Love, who is the CAADP focal person for Kenya at the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development. So Madam Love, as per the presentation made by Agnes, Kenya has been among the most consistent performers in the CAADP process since it started in 2017. What has made the difference at the country level, linking the biennial review to actual budget and planning decision? And what remains difficult now at the country level to complete that process? We would want to hear from you. Welcome, Josephine.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Paul. And thank you very much for inviting me here. Yes, of course, I've been the CAADP focal person for a long time, and I've seen the country go through the 5 biennial review reports. And one thing that we have in Kenya is that progressively we have been aligning the CAADP with national development plans. For example, when you look at our first compact, you see how we linked it to the Vision 2030. When you look at our our current tool of implementing that we were using to implementing the Malabo, you'll see how we link even to the medium terms of this Vision 2030. And every time you see how we link it with the current government's manifesto. So that's how we have gone a long way, making sure that the CAADP principles, the desires of achievements and targets are all integrated within our national plans. Now, we have also tried to institutionalize the process of CAADP. One, the CAADP in Kenya is managed by a team of technical officers who come from different multi-agency departments, government departments. They come from the private sector. We have them from the academia. We have even civil society members. It is multidisciplinary. So you find that whatever comes up and it is discussed within this forum goes back to those institutions to inform or affect the way they do their annual plans. Every time we have a medium-term expenditure plan, we use the tool for implementing CAADP at that point that the ministry uses, the sector uses. And when we meet at in our meetings, we discuss. For example, we may discuss the performance of the BR. and therefore we commission each one. Now, this one desires a intervention from your organization, from your department, and therefore we discuss what is possible and what is not possible. So in the next meeting, we usually carry out some mutual accountability. This was to happen, did it happen, what happened? So this one's kind of motivates a member to go back to their institutions and make sure that they plan to implement gaps that we observe probably in BR or you know, when we meet, people bring issues that are found there in the, for example, the civil society can bring a challenge within the meeting, and therefore we charge those institutions responsible to do some interventions. So the next time we don't expect to say that we did nothing, because after all, the membership, it's at a very high level nomination. Our principal secretary requested other secretaries to nominate technical officers suitable to sit within that meeting. So you find that everything that we discuss, everything one carries home, you carry home knowing that is going to be acceptable within that institution, and it will be a responsibility of that institution to support the Ministry of Agriculture to achieve the milestones of CAADP. The other thing is that we have gone ahead to have data clusters. And these clusters, they cut across, and they are backed. They cut across government institutions, but they are also backed by institutions, the civil society institutions. And this is where certain segments of data, according to the BR, are discussed. You find that if it is food security, the production side, there's a cluster that has got leadership, and they discussed everything in the detail. They even are the people responsible on bringing out what could be happening anywhere in the country in regards to achieving food production for food security. So that is how we have been managing ourselves. And I can say that the CAADP, where we have reached, it's only financial challenges, because we have a devolved system of governance, and it is now ready to go to the county. The county governments are ready now to adopt CAADP, to adopt the BR, and therefore we feel that it has really BR and CAADP are really made us an avenue or a platform where we are charged with discussing the sector development in the details, and it's mandatory to to have regular reviews of the sector. So yes, you are the second part of our question. What is difficulty? It is still difficulty. I don't know. I heard it is Diop who discussed about linking performance evidence with the resource allocation. For us, we have not yet achieved it there. And if we could achieve that, taking the gaps we identified in BR and giving that priority while we are planning for investment, I think it could help a lot to achieve what we intend to achieve. Now, we also still have some data quality challenges, although the sector has invested a lot on data. We have the KIAMIS, but we still face issues of data quality, even data consistency, given that indicators keep evolving, and also methods of collecting this data keep evolving. We keep learning on the best way to collect this data, and the people keep coming, new people come with fresh ideas that are good. Sometimes the timelines to collect this data differ. Some require surveys, and surveys are not done every year. So you find that between one survey and another survey, sometimes you don't know whether it is these interventions that really have achieved this. You find that between a survey and another survey, an indicator value has gone down. So we have these a few challenges of timelines. We also experience some, yeah.
Let me pause you a bit, because our MD, Dr. Debbie Siaraba, is with us, and he needs to jump to another meeting, and we would want to give him an opportunity now, and then we continue. Kindly hold that thought for a moment, because he needs to jump to another meeting. Let me welcome Dr. Debbie Siaraba, our MD, to make some remarks.
Paul, let me kindly come in. I think he had to step out. So please continue the conversation.
Okay. Sorry about that. I think I didn't get the message in good time. So yes, Josephine, you can finalize in 1 minute, so that we give Chikondi also an opportunity, because we have 15 minutes remaining. Thank you.
Yeah, so we also face some challenge, because if you realize within our BR system, the tracking of activities, we are very good, we report good progress, but when it comes to the impact, it is really that the activities, we frequently track them, we achieve, but when it comes to the impact, impacts are long-term, but we don't really achieve much. And also, it is also not easy to sustain political changes. Today we have this political system around that supports fully what this BR, CAADP, they are all about. You find there is another change of political set within within a very short, within a period probably of 5 years. And again, sustaining the achievements within the BR is also very difficult, because we have this climate change, we have pressures from droughts and the food crisis. If you remember what happened to Kenya, one time we were the only country in the continent on track with towards achieving food security. But the following BR, it was not easy, because by the time we were doing the reporting, we had plenty of food all over. And so all the indicators, we reported very good results. But come next BR, people in one section of the country, they are dying, and animals are dying. And so even the BR in data showed that there is a crisis. So you find that sustaining this is it's not an easy thing. There is an effect due to changes and calamities that come frequently. Let me stop there.
Yes, thank you very much, Josephine, for those very good and interesting insight on Kenya's experience. That you have linked the CAADP implementation to the national strategies. You have linked it to the medium-term plan and the medium-term expenditure framework. You have established a multi-stakeholder platform for coordinating implementation, and also the data clusters. Thank you very much for that. Of course, you have highlighted the external factors, drought, and other things that do affect implementation. So now, I would want to invite Madam Chikondi Chavuta, who is the chairperson of the CAADP non-state actor group. And my question to you is, civil society has a formal role in CAADP mutual accountability, yet the engagement of the civil society actors is quite thin, especially regarding the BR at the country level. What are the common barriers that prevent CSOs from effectively engaging in the BR, using the evidence generated to actually hold government into account? Madam Chikondi.
Thank you very much, Dr. Paul, and thank you to everyone who has already spoken. Let me begin by appreciating Academia 2063 and AUC and the partners behind this Kampala CAADP webinar series. This series is doing exactly what the Kampala Declaration calls for. It is really creating that continental learning space that is helping turn Kampala into action. So as the CAADP non-state actors group, we have benefited immensely from these conversations because they strengthen our ability to engage as informed implementation partners. So thank you for this series. Listening into today's presentations, but also going to your question, Dr. Paul, one thing has stayed with me. Non-state actors are engaging within the biannual review, and the problem that we have seen is a utilization of the biannual review results. We know more today than ever before what are the drivers of agriculture transformation, poverty reduction, but also public investments. The question is, what changes because we know it? What changes when non-state actors engage with government departments providing policy recommendations? From a system perspective, the value of the biannual review is not in the report itself, and non-state actors have been saying this time and again. Its value lies in whether it changes the behavior of the system. Does it influence the next investment plan? Does it reshape budgets? Does it strengthen collaboration, or does it improve decisions? If not, then we have created a reporting loop instead of a learning loop. This is where I believe the non-state actors have a unique value proposition. In most cases, we are brought in when the results come out, but we are not engaged when the data is being collected. And our role is not really just to simply advocate. Our role is there to connect the evidence ecosystem with the implementation ecosystem. Over the past months, we have been engaging to also try to domesticate the CAADP Kampala within the non-state actors, farmers' organizations, researchers, businesses, women's organizations, and youth have already been doing remarkable work across the continent to support the BR. What is often missing is the connection between this evidence and what happens when we go into that budgeting cycle. It does not connect. So we have also heard consistently that non-state actors don't want to be invited to validate decisions from these few months that we have implemented Kampala. One thing that comes up is they want to help shape. They want the capacity to engage in policy analysis, but they also have the bandwidth to help with agricultural financing and accountability because they want to co-deliver the CAADP Kampala agenda, not simply observe it or not come just at the last minute. That is the opportunity before us. If evidence is connected to implementation through stronger partnerships, then research informs policy, policy informs investment, and then investment actually changes the lives of people on the continent. Let me close with one thought because I know I'm running out of time. A farmer will never read the biannual review, but a farmer will know whether it worked. They will know because markets function better, because investment is reaching where it is needed most, because young people see where they can put their digital agriculture or even just their agriculture into practice and be supported with inputs, be supported with markets. Because women have greater influence in shaping food systems, And that is how we should judge the success of the biannual review, and how we should even judge ourselves as non-state actors, not by the quality of the report itself, which is appreciated, and we really are grateful for the work that's gone into it. But we want this quality of report to also translate into the quality of lives of the people. And that's where it matters most for us as non-state actors. Thank you. And back to you, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you very much for those very nice and incisive remarks that you have made, that we have to move from a reporting loop to a learning loop. And I think that message is consistent from all the panelists who have contributed, that going into Kampala era, we really have to use the BR process really to be a learning platform for policy change rather than just reporting. And also thank you for demonstrating and showing that the role of the CSOs is not just advocacy, but they also come as contributors and co-implementers of the CAADP agenda. So thank you very much to the panelists. Very much appreciated for your insights and your willingness to avail yourself to share. Thank you very much. I know questions have been coming into the Q&A tab, and I believe some of them are being already responded to. But allow me, in the next few minutes, there is one person whose hand has remained up. I think it's Babaka Lam. I hope you have a question. Your hand has been up throughout, so we allow you to ask your question. Kindly unmute Babaka. Thank you.
Paul, if you can see the chat, there is a question for Boaz.
Okay, very well. Do you mind, Lai, kindly read out the question so that Boaz can respond? Thank you.
Okay, so this question is from Julian Barungi to Mr. Kizere. Linking the CAADP BR to MTEF is a good idea. Is it possible at the national level to have financial incentives for BR improvements through, for example, a bonus increment in national budgetary allocation, and also having budgetary disincentives, for instance, budget cuts for deterioration in BR performance? How can this be done?
Very good. That's a really good and practical question, because first of all, if you really understand how the medium-term expenditure framework works, that the Ministry of Finance normally issues a budget circular, asks sectors to submit their budget ideas and proposals, and because sectors are guided by different ministries and agencies, so there'll be competition and race for money. Of course, if you are in the Ministry of Finance and you are sitting in the macroeconomic department that really links public expenditure, outcomes, you do the macroeconomic analysis, but when you go to budget allocations, there is a competition with the budget codes and the budget dates. So I think Julian's question is extremely spot on, and from her name, it seems comes from Uganda. I think one of the best examples that is happening on the continent, and we are yet to see how basically it works, is where countries have adopted what we call program-based budgeting. Program-based and results-based budgeting, creating incentives for rewarding, financial reward. I don't mean like just gifts, but allocating more resources to institutions that are demonstrating cross-sector collaboration. Where, for example, if it's about irrigation, this could be a budget coming from Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Water, planning together, solving one problem of intersector coordination. It's an irrigation issue, it requires water, and it's also water for production. It's an agriculture issue too. So where ministries of finance are allocating resources to a budget that speaks to a program rather than an institution, that is a strong incentive for not only execution, but for coordination and collaboration. Secondly, where you create special incentives for any sector and ministry that has been able to execute development expenditure more than recurrent expenditure, will be increasing in the budget cycle, but of course linking to the outcomes and results. So those are some of the practical incentive-based mechanisms that you can integrate within the budget planning cycles that creates efficiency in terms of allocations, efficiency in terms of execution, efficiency in terms of accountability, and rewarding. Rewarding meaning you're allocating where resources are coming from. And of course, maintaining the macroeconomic stability at the Ministry of Finance level to make sure that the economy is balancing. So special incentives exist, but through the budget as an instrument, program-based budgeting. Program, not just sector, give to agriculture, give to health, give to environment. Then each of the sectors are running separately. They are coming with separate results that they don't speak to each other. The Ministry of Infrastructure is constructing a road somewhere where it is not linked to where the agriculture investment is happening, and therefore the linking to the markets. So those are very kind of some practical cases that can happen. And I think with a stronger discussion with the parliamentarians being engaged, with all advocacy actors, with the data and intersector coordination instruments well clarified, that is possible. And actually we can start doing it in some of the countries. Hope that helps.
Thank you very much, Boaz, for that very robust response to the question. And I believe that it is well answered. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's 2 minutes to the time of stopping our webinar. And we would want to thank every one of you for being part of this webinar, for sparing an hour and a half of your day to attend this seminar. Thank you very much. You make it a success. As we indicated, this is a series. Please be on the lookout for the announcement of the next one that will be coming soon. And you will see the communication in our usual channels. Thank you for very active engagement in the Q&A. I have been able now to look and see that there were quite a number of questions, and our presenters and panelists have effectively been responding to them. And of course, even beyond this webinar, should you want to know more, you can actually follow up. I believe that these briefs will be, the links to them will be shared in our website, and you can further interact with them. Otherwise, we are very grateful on behalf of our MD, who is not able to join us for the closing because of another meeting. I want to thank you all. I want to thank the presenters. I want to thank the AU. Thank you very much, Madam Agnes, for availing yourself and really providing, sharing the results of the 5th BR spot-on presentation. We thank you for that. And really you moved from just what the data is showing, but also what can be done differently going forward. And I believe even the panelists also enriched us with practical angles of how that can be done. I want to thank each and every of the panelists for also being here and your engagement and willingness to share ideas and thoughts and experiences. Thank you, Hamadi. Thank you, Boaz. Thank you, Josephine. Thank you, Chikondi. Thank you, Agnes. Also to my colleagues who presented, Wondwasen, Christian, and even Johannes. We appreciate that very much. And we hope that we will continue to work together collectively as we enter into this period of implementing CAADP, and that we can create more and more of these forums where we can learn from each other and enrich the implementation process. So thank you very much for your time. Bye-bye till next time. I would want to ask our Director of Communication, Madam Lai, if you have a closing word for the people, and thank you for the team also for enabling this to happen. Thank you very much. Lai, do you have something to say?
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you for your excellent moderation. And I reiterate a very warm thank you to all our speakers and to all the participants. Thank you for honoring our invitation every single time. We will be in touch to announce the 7th series. As always, we will share with all the participants the presentations and the recording of the meeting as well as other resources. Thanks for tuning in and see you next time. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone.